Power, position, authority, leadership. It takes a lot of wisdom and experience to learn the important, profound distinction between these two sets of words, and then to make life choices that reflect which of the two, power, position, or authority, leadership, we are truly desiring and perhaps aspiring toward. Today's readings leave little doubt as to which direction we are to pursue as followers of Christ. As we meet James and John in the gospel today, it would seem that they had neither wisdom nor life experience. Teacher, we want you to do whatever we ask of you. Grant that in your glory we may sit one at your right and the other at your left. In their youth and naivete, they clearly could not discern the difference between magic and miracles. Jesus, the teacher, tries to nudge them in the right direction. You do not know what you are asking. Can you drink the cup that I drink, or be baptized with the baptism with which I am baptized? We can. This is a great example of you better watch what you ask for, you just might get it. Whenever I read this gospel, I can't help but think of all the families who have a similar exchange with their children who desperately want a puppy. Can you feed the puppy twice a day and take it out twice a day? We can. Almost always reply the zealous but very short-sighted children. We all know how that winds up. It doesn't take long, maybe a week or maybe just a day, before mom and dad are taking care of the puppy. Overly zealous and underexperienced, James and John reply in kind. Yes, Jesus, we can drink from the cup you drink. Yes, we can be baptized with the baptism with which you will be baptized. Oh, indeed, you will drink from the cup I will drink, and you will be baptized with the baptism with which I am baptized. The bad news for James and John is that it has nothing to do with sitting on the right or left of Jesus when he comes into glory. Nothing at all to do with power or position, but everything to do with authority and leadership that they were not yet aware they were being called to. There is no entitlement to power or position attached to that drink from the cup, or from entering the waters of that baptism. Instead, it is a call to authority and leadership defined by one very important word: servant. I have to imagine it must have been as disorienting to them as if suddenly befallen by an avalanche when Jesus informs James and John that greatness in his kingdom is equal to servitude. Primacy and first place in God's kingdom translates into being the slave of all. Indeed, they were beginning to learn. To be sure, Jesus' words are strong words, and I wonder how they fall upon our ears today. You see, understanding the distinction between power, position, authority, leadership is perhaps at least as critically needed today as it was then. We have, unfortunately, far too many examples in the world of how the quest for power and position without any concept whatsoever of servant leadership, cripples, dehumanizes, and devastates those subject to it. And what an important time for me and you to reflect on the distinction between those two sets of words, power and position, authority and leadership. Here we are, a nation that so many and other nations around the world look to and depend upon, on the verge of a highly polarizing presidential election. I wonder what the net effect on all of us would be if instead of James and John, Jesus had the same interchange with two different people, one named Donald and the other one named Kamala. I wonder how much a concept of servant leadership is a part of their campaign consciousness and ours as responsible voters as they and we approach November 5th. Perhaps one of our takeaways from the gospel today is maybe to engage in an exercise of our own servant leadership. That is, regardless of our political persuasion and how much we might want one of our candidates to win, to be praying for both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. One of them will be our next president. As interesting a point that may be to ponder, regardless of where we stand politically, as Christians, the call to me and you remains the same. That is, to drink the cup that Jesus drinks and to be baptized with the baptism with which Jesus is baptized. If we come around this table, without a doubt, ready or not, we will. Simply put, exercising our God-given authority so as to be servant and slave of all by design means we will bear affliction and suffering. I truly wish there was a way around that, but the older I get, the more I realize, darn it, there really isn't. I don't know about you, but for me, James and John remind me a lot of the rich young man from last week's gospel. All three are about good things and seem to be genuinely good-hearted people of good intention. Yet all three are lacking in wisdom and life experience. But if I'm honest, I can relate to them. In fact, true story, when I was in theology many, many moons ago, I lived and studied with the Dominicans in Washington, D.C., and every year they put on a passion play. And I was approached to be in the play. Yes, I can, I said, thinking how wonderful. Now, I didn't think I'd get to play the part of Jesus, but surely I'd be an apostle, wouldn't I? Well, no, not quite. You got it. I was asked to be the rich young man. I had to practice many times walking away sad. You see, I had no taste yet at that time of the cost of discipleship or what it means to be a servant leader or, God forbid, slave of all. If I'm honest, I'm still learning. Boy, am I ever. And maybe that is the crux of what it means to drink the cup that Jesus drinks. No wonder we hear the sobering advice in the letter to the Hebrews. Let us confidently approach the throne of grace to receive mercy and to find the grace for timely help. God knows, to dare to embrace servant leadership, we need mercy and timely help, and a lot of both. In his book, Sacred Fire, Ronald Rolheiser recounts a conversation between author Nikos Kazantzakis with an old monk named Father Makarios that is a stunning example, I think, of what it means to approach the wisdom and life experience of a servant leader. In that conversation, Kazantzakis asks the old monk, "Father, do you still wrestle with the devil?" The old monk reflected for a while and then replied, "Not any longer, my child. I have grown old now, and he has grown old with me. He doesn't have the strength. I wrestle with God." "With God?" exclaimed the astonished young Kazantzakis. "And you hope to win?" The old ascetic replied, "My child, I hope to lose." Ultimately, it does take wisdom and life experience to ask to drink the cup that Jesus drinks and to be baptized with the baptism with which Jesus is baptized. It takes great wisdom to hope to lose. Are you up to it? In a few minutes, we will approach the table of mercy and timely help, the table of the Eucharist. Let us pray for the desire to keep moving in that direction. Let us pray for the desire to be servant leaders such that others see his light in us for the fullness of our days.